Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Secure the Seat Live. I'm your host, Minda Harts. I'm just so happy that you're here. You could be anywhere on the internet right now, but you're here with us. If it's your first time joining, welcome to the squad. If it is your 100th time, your 200th time, you are family, and we're just so happy that you're here. So drop some emojis in the chat. Let me know that you're alive and you're, even if you're not well, let's pretend that right now we are well, okay? And it's all in our minds. So together we're well, we're here, and our success is not a solo sport. And so again, thank you so much for being here each and every Monday. It means a lot to us here at Secure the Seat, and it's a community. I don't know about you, but I look forward to our conversations. And also too, this isn't just about me and my guests. I want you all to connect with each other in the chat. So if you feel comfortable, majority of you are watching us live on LinkedIn, drop your LinkedIn profile, follow each other, stay connected, engage in that way, because you never know who might be able to speak each other's names in the rooms that we're not in. So let's leverage the power of LinkedIn right here, right now. And then those who are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and make sure if you're on YouTube that you subscribe to our channel, and every conversation is available for the replay. So make sure that you go and get those nuggets when you need them. But today I'm really excited because we're going to talk about this word that drives me crazy on occasions. It's called executive presence, and what that means. I did an article for the platform Chief about executive presence. We'll drop that in the chat in case you have, this may be your first time even hearing about it or understanding what it is. We're going to drop that in the chat. But I thought, who should I have to talk about this? And I had to bring Salita Roberts on to talk about this. And she is an image stylist. She is a consultant. She is a speaker. She sits at many different intersections, but I'm going to let her tell more about herself, the things that you can Google online. And we're going to have a conversation. But first, before I bring her to the stage, what do you think when you hear the word executive presence? What pops up for you? I'd love for you to drop it in the chat. And if you're watching us after the show, still engage in the chat, because there's others that are also watching it after the fact. And so we want to make sure that you go ahead and have that community too. But when I say executive presence, what comes up for you? Would love to hear. Let's be honest and candid. I want to know what that feels like for you. But without further ado, I'm going to bring up Salita and let's get into the conversation. That's what you're all here for every Monday, right? The conversation. Salita, welcome to Secure the Seat.
Hi, Minda. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me.
We're a little color coordinated. We did not plan this.
I saw it and I was like, okay, definitely on the same page. Color for me is something, especially now that it's winter, it's a bit gloomy. It's a bit, for me, overwhelming just being in this cold space relative for everyone. So the color does add some personality and helps me to feel great. So I hope that's why you're wearing your color as well, because it helps.
Yes, I wanted to be cozy when I talked to you about executive presence, and I wanted to also wear bright colors because we are in Black History Month. So I also wanted to be in theme there. But tell people more about you and the work that you do.
Well, first of all, thank you again for having me. And before I, dive into who I am and what I do, I wanted to take this moment to say thank you for the work that you're doing, because I think when you started your work and talking about securing the seat and talking about the things that Black women need to know to be able to get that, I don't think you included a woman like me. I'm Black, I'm Caribbean, I'm an immigrant, right? And this is my Black experience, Black woman experience in the US. And just trying to understand what that looked like and understanding what are some of the Black experience for Black women in corporate. Your books became my resource, right? They became my guide in terms of learning what that experience is. Then obviously that's not, it doesn't encompass the entire experience of a Black woman, but it helped guide me and it helped shape the work that I do, which is to be an image stylist for Black women in corporate and really understanding, I couldn't bring my biases to to the work that I do. I've lived in the Caribbean for most of my life. All my experience as a Black woman has been a Black Caribbean woman. And so I had to learn what it's like to be Black in America. What are some of the challenges Black women are struggling with, especially when it comes to their appearance and how they show up, right? Because I've never had to deal with some of the challenges that Black women in America has had to deal with. And so that is your work really and truly has somewhat inspired the direction in terms of where I'm going with my business. So I'm the founder of Style to Impact, and the foundation of the work that I do is built around representation. Is not just securing a seat. It's not being in the room, but it's also how you're showing up and how you're showing up in terms of what you're wearing and how you're representing yourself. And so it's important for me, for Black women and women of color, to feel confident and empowered in being who they are and showing up into those spaces, being exactly who they are. And I know there's some work still to be done in that case, to feel confident, to know that, okay, I can choose freedom over fear in walking into every room being my authentic self. And so it's been a journey, but I want to really thank you for providing some of that direction for me and understanding.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate the flowers. Thank you for seeing me. That means so much to me. You're already dropping gems. Freedom over fear. Just go ahead and write that one down. Tweet that one out, because we have to choose that freedom over fear going into it in every space that we enter. And we'll drop Salita's information in the chat so that follow her here on LinkedIn, but connect with her, hire her, and have that support you need when you want to show up, and sometimes we're not always sure how or feel comfortable. We need that cheerleader helping us get there. But when I started the show, Salita, I mentioned the word executive presence, and I'm really curious to tell us how executive presence has been harmful to women of color in the workplace, and how you are working to redefine what executive presence means.
Executive presence. Well, first of all, thank you for the question. And I'm going to be honest with you. As someone who grew up in the Caribbean and I heard executive presence, it was like, oh, I needed to act and look a certain way to be accepted, to be seen as successful, to be seen as equal, or, be given these opportunities. But as I get into the work that I'm doing and understanding the impact of trying to define people based on this one concept that does not include everyone, right? Because when we think about the definition of executive presence, is how you look, act, and sound. The way I look, the way I act, and the way I sound is not the same way you act, look, and sound. So how can we use this terminology to basically assess which one of us is best suited for the position? Because my experiences as a Caribbean woman, as an immigrant, is totally different from yours. So the way I show up is totally different from the way you're going to show up. Yes, we're wearing the same colors today, right? But that does not mean that we have the same outlook and the same experiences. And so what I find when you just continue doing the work is finding that executive presence, as using that definition, put women and women of color in a bracket that they need to aspire to look like an image that does not represent them. And if you Google it, image of executive presence, it's not going to be a Black woman. It's not going to be a woman of color. It's more than likely going to be a white man in a navy blue suit with a white button-down shirt and a tie. That's not us. And if in the workplace, that's the definition and that's the image that's being used to determine whether or not you're suitable for a promotion, you'll never get it, because you can never be that image. You can never aspire and become that person. So for me, looking at that work, it basically removes us from the equation, right? It takes us away from that. And more that we try to assimilate, or we try to think about, oh, how can I wear that corporate navy blue suit? How can I sound different? How can I just try not to be too bright, too bold, so that I can fit into that narrative, but we can't, right? Executive presence is not just one thing. It's looking at us as individuals and how we're showing up into that space. And if we don't do that, then we're not being judged fairly and we wouldn't get those opportunities that we're looking for.
I love that so much. That's a great definition of it. Tambourine moments. I think my dog Boston has hid my tambourine. I did not find it, so we're just going to pretend that I have it today. But that is so true. You know, as you were talking, Salida, I thought about just that. You know, if everybody Googled that, when I entered into corporate America, and pretty much the whole time I was there, executive presence was white male or white woman, right? That, what are the girls wearing? Oh, they're wearing the pantsuits. I better go get my pantsuit. They're wearing the shorts, or not the shorts, the skirt set with the suit, right? You gotta go run out and get, oh, what are we wearing? Tahari this, you know, it's all these things that you're like, oh, but this doesn't mean that we get the role, doesn't mean that we're seen. You know, it's just another kind of barrier to entry. But at the same time, people are saying, bring your authentic self to work. What are you really saying?
Oh yeah, I that authentic self. I know there's lots of conversations around that, right? Like bringing your authentic self. What does that mean? And for me, authenticity is first of all, from an individual standpoint, like who am I? Right? My experiences are different. How do I want to express who I am in the workplace? And going back to, as I said, I'm immigrant, I'm Caribbean. The way I grew up, I was never, told that I need to be someone or pretend to be someone else. Like code switching was something I was never it was never a thought. I showed up into every space how I want to be seen, right? What that means for me, my career, the opportunities that I'm looking for. And I define authenticity based on who I am. But when we think about it in the workplace, it's like, but can you tone down? Don't speak that way. Don't dress this way. But when you think about it, are you really asking me to bring my authentic self or a version of what you think that should look like? And for me, that's a no. And it's why I do the work that I do, is to really empower women and say, take how you want to show up in your control. It's in your control. You control the narrative. You control what that means for you when you say, I want to be my authentic self and I'm going to go. Now, going into the corporate setting, you have to remember, yes, or any environment, represent yourself to the best of your ability. What does that look like? You have to, and we think about the way you dress and we think about what that means. You're not going to wear a two-piece bikini to a board meeting, right? But so there's that part of it. But your corporate dress code and what makes you feel confident and authentic to you might simply mean wearing jeans and sneakers with a t-shirt and a blazer. Does that mean you're not qualified? No. Does that mean you shouldn't be in the room? No. But that's who you are. That's your authentic self. And for me, authenticity is the way you advocate for yourself. It's the way you tell people, this is who I am, and I'm not going to shrink to fit or conform to your idea, your idea as to who I should be. But you're going to have to accept me or not accept me for who I am. And we have to be okay with those consequences, whatever they are.
That part. Listen, if you're not already convinced, I shouldn't have to convince you, but go ahead and follow Salida here on LinkedIn. Connect with her. She has really great content here on LinkedIn as well. So if you want more of this, definitely connect, hire her, find out how, if you're not showing up the way you need to, the way you want to, you're like, ooh, what does that look like? Because I've been conditioned to show up how everybody else wants me to show up. And so give yourself permission to explore, be curious about what that looks like. And you said something, Salida, about authenticity. There's a saying that many of you probably have heard, the clothes don't make the man, right? But how important is authenticity to confidence? Because I'll say, even for myself, I can clean up really well, but I also think that it means two things. I can clean up really well in a really beautiful dress and some heels, and as people say, dress to the nines. But I also feel just as confident when I'm in a baseball cap and my favorite sneakers and some really, I feel fly both ways, right? And so my confidence probably feels better when I have my favorite sneaker on than my favorite heel. But I feel like I had to unlearn what my presence was. It doesn't mean that I don't bring just as much as Joe does because I wear flats today, right? It's a mindset. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And so when we think about clothes don't make the man, right? It kind of reminds me of the saying, put your head down, where we're told get into the workplace, put your head down and success will come. And we know that's not true. You actually have to become visible, show up, advocate for yourself. And so when I think about clothes and confidence and authenticity, once you have a clear understanding as to who you are, so you have determined Minda loves sneakers. That's my power piece. That's my confidence piece. But at the same time, if I have to go to a gala that requires me to wear heels and a dress, I'm still going to feel confident because you have a clear idea as to who you are. You center your presence and how you want to show up around who you are, as opposed to trying to shape your image and your style to fit into these spaces that you're going into. So whenever you're thinking about style and authenticity and confidence, it comes down to who you want to be. How do you want to show up in that space? And what are those crucial pieces that you need to add to your closet that's going to make you feel that way? And knowing that it doesn't matter if you're in a casual environment or a dressy environment, you're still bringing your authentic self, because Minda in heels and Minda in sneakers is the same person. She's just dressing based on the way she wants to present herself, based on the environment, based on the lifestyle activity that you're going into, but you're bringing and being your authentic self. And that level of confidence can only come when you are confident in who you are, right? You're removing the barriers, you're removing the boxes that, society put us in and tell us how we should show up. And you're saying, no, I'm breaking free from all of that. I am centered into who I am. I know who I am. I know how I want to represent myself and my brand and my business. I know what message I want to send. And this is the way that I'm going to show up doing that.
Preaching on a Monday. Thank you for that. I love it. We're talking about securing the seat on the show every week, but part of securing your seat is also understanding who you are and who you need to be in that seat, right? It's not enough to just say, I got the seat, but if you're not comfortable in it, all of the things, and you're not going to be confident. It's going to be very hard. And so at some point you might give up the seat because you don't feel comfortable sitting there, right? Because you haven't found those pieces, those power. But it's an inside job. You got to be right within and work through that. So I think that's so important. Salita, my last question before we get into our bonus round is, there's a lot of companies, a lot of people that work at organizations that watch us every week. What can companies and organizations do to dismantle this executive presence bias that has held many of us back?
Create a safe space. It's, like I've shared, I've never worked in corporate America, right? But the stories that I've heard is beyond anything that I can imagine, right? And being women of color, and then adding the fact, if I was going into that corporate space, I'm a Black woman, I'm an immigrant, I'm Caribbean. I don't act, sound, or look like most people that I'm around. But if there's a safe space for me to walk in that door, knowing that I don't have to change who I am to get the work done, but I can bring my whole self, whatever version of myself, because yes, there are parts of you that you want to keep private and personal to yourself, but I don't have to put a filter on because the organization made the decision to create a safe space. How do you go about creating that safe space? Is recognizing that the people that are walking through your door or on Zoom different. They're individuals with different backgrounds, different upbringings, different cultural experiences. And you have to now put that lens on yourself and saying, what are some ways in which I can create an environment where it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what your experiences are, you feel safe being in this space.
Listen, mic drop. It's the safety for me. You know, if people, you say that you want people to bring their authentic selves, then we have to demonstrate what safety looks like when they show up that way, right? If it's doesn't matter if they're sitting at home wearing sweatpants or jeans, right? It doesn't matter. You know, it's just so interesting to me that sometimes people think it's just the individual that has to battle through this, but it's also the environments in which we work. Do we feel comfortable? Do we feel safe, to your point? And so if you are a leader in your company or a manager, it's up to us to make sure that we dismantle these biases. So even when you're in the interviewing room and they're saying, oh, they don't look like a good fit, what does that mean, right? Because they didn't show up in the button-up shirt, but they have on, you know, a nice t-shirt, you know, that in a blazer, like you said. And I think we just have to, last thing I'll say, and let you chime in if you have something, is when I started out, I remember I had a boss, and I've probably said it a couple of times throughout the times I've done the show, but I used to have this manager who, she despised any woman that wore open-toe shoes. Like if they showed up in the office and wore open-toed shoes, she'd send them home to change their shoes. She felt like that was unprofessional. If you weren't wearing stockings, right, that was unprofessional. And I kind of laugh about it now, because now nobody hardly ever you wear stockings to work, you know, on occasions, right? But does it mean that we're less professional now because times have kind of changed and we just don't have to wear those things if you don't want to? But that was like the standard, right? But who gets to define the standard, right? It's often not us who are defining it. So let's define it for ourselves. What are your thoughts?
Oh no, that's like, I'm horrified at just hearing your story. So I kind of reminds me of my time in banking. So I spent over 15 years in banking. And if you know anything about banking, it's very much so traditional, that navy blue, white uniform. And I remember getting these uniforms and I was like, who's coming up with the decision for us as women? It's like, oh, women are not allowed to wear pants. I'm sorry, what? I'm only supposed to wear dresses and skirts. And your shoes, like we couldn't wear like stilettos, like heels. It had to be like these chunky, I don't want to say like describe, because it was horrible, the shoes that the committee thought that we needed to wear. And I remember the first time they're like, oh, we're opening for new members to join the community. I was like, because by whose standard are you defining, as you said, are you defining what professional looks like and what I should be wearing? And most of the time it's from our own personal biases, is what we think and what we believe that, oh, I don't wear this, so let me open that belief to the masses and everybody needs to wear or not wear this thing that I say. And I'm like, I want to say BS, but right? It's and this is where I say creating that safe space when we think about companies is taking away your belief system, because your belief system does not make it true.
Period. So Leah, where can people find you, hire you, work with you? Where's the best place?
Yeah, so if you're here, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my social media platform of choice. So obviously that's where you can connect with me. And also you can connect with me on my website, which is styletoimpact.com. That's where you can, if you want to work with me, of course, you can message me there as well, or message me here on LinkedIn. So I appreciate the support.
Go ahead and check. First of all, follow her, and then check out the website, because, you know, we're early in the year right now. You're probably thinking, how do I want to show up? I need some extra assistance, and just check it out, right? Check it out. See how Salida might be able to be helpful for you. I think it's important that we have people on our team, on our squad, to help us get to those next levels. She's no different. You know, I talk about getting a coach if you need one. it's the same thing, right? We need coaches at different places in our life. So make sure that you connect. This has been so, so good. You know, I ask all my guests about grits. I love salt and butter in my grits. I know you're Caribbean, so I know you're about to break my heart, but in Atlanta, so you might have been to a few grits places, but how do you like your grits?
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Minda. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I have never had grits before, but I'm beginning to think that it will be with sugar.
Mike, cut the screen, cut the mic right now. Cut it. Wrong answer, but answers today, so I'll let you have a pass. But okay, since you're not having any grits, I prefer you never to eat them than to say you'll put sugar on them. So if you have a good bowl of something, a good rap lyric goes with it. What is one of your favorite rap lyrics and why?
Oh, I was thinking of this. I know growing up for me, I loved Little Kim. Obviously, for me, I just loved her, how she embraced her sexuality, but I'm horrible with remembering songs. So I did have to, one of the, who I'm listening to right now is Jay-Z. And so there's the song A Dream. There's a line in there that he says, remind yourself, nobody's built like you. You design yourself. And I think that's an important reminder for us as women of color as we enter the workplace, as we're looking to secure a seat, that remove the box. Stop embracing the things that people are saying that you should be, and be your authentic self. Show up the way that you want to represent yourself, because there's no one else like you.
Jigga Man with the good lyrics. So I appreciate that. Great lyric. And all of our viewers are leaders, in my opinion. We don't have to wait for somebody to give us a raise or whatever have you, or wait for our manager to tap us on the shoulder and say, you're a rising star. We all can be a leader right now, and activate that. So for all our leaders watching, what's one thing or one piece of advice they can do to make the workplace better than we found it?
That'll go back to my answer previously of creating the safe space, and also recognizing the differences in the people that's walking into your office space and being on Zoom, and understanding what those differences are, right? Understanding, I'm not sure if you watch it as yet, You People. It's like
watching it and then I fell asleep, but not because I liked it, because I was tired. So I have to go back.
Okay, so I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, but it's just like when you recognize our differences and we recognize that the people that we are around, we have to educate ourselves as to what those differences are, and how can we create an environment for that person or persons to feel comfortable being themselves, without thinking that, okay, what crap I'm gonna say or do that's gonna affect me today. So that's something that I definitely believe is safety, and be intentional about it.
Absolutely. This was such a great conversation. Thank you for your time, for the way that you show up. And I know this will be the first of many conversations, but make sure you go ahead and follow and connect. And we'll bring Mike up for our last segment for affirmations. But thank you so much, Salida.
Thank you for having me, Minda. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Wow, that was such a great episode. I just love when we can talk about the realness of the workplace, and what we can do to show up. And we can't wait for others to give us permission to be ourselves, figure out who you need to be for you. That's very, very important. So I'm going to bring Mike up. Hey, brother, how are you?
Hey, sis, how you doing?
Good. Great episode, right?
Amazing episode. Lots of knowledge, lots of gems, lots of insight. Awesome.
Absolutely. So we're in our second week of February, Black History Month, but we celebrate it all year long because we are Black, and we do that. But what is our affirmation so we can just breathe that in this month?
Yes, our affirmation for this month is mistakes are not my final destination. I think a lot of times in life, if we do one or two things wrong, we like to cancel out everything we've done right. That's why we can't allow forgiveness for ourselves. We can't allow forgiveness for other people. We can't allow anything for training and learning. And one of the things that I love about working at the Memo and working for Minda is that we all grow together. If I do something creatively, or I'm like, hey, I think this will work out, and it goes an opposite direction, or we're learning together. Minda's the type of person that embraces it and says, let's do A, B, and C the next time. Right. So I think we need to create work environments like this. We say we're here to learn, we're here to training, we're here for training, we're here for this, we're here for that. How many times have we been on jobs and we didn't know the first few days was all the training we'll get, right? That was all the training you're going to get. When they hand you that manual, when they hand you that or this, and they tell you the first few hours, the first few days, next thing you know, you're on a computer by yourself. It's just you. And then somebody is saying, and a few days later, I already told you that the first day. Didn't I already give you those notes? Didn't I already? That first trainer was so nice. They took you out to lunch the first day. After the first 2 days, after the first week, don't let it be 2 or 3 weeks. It's over. You're done. So I think we have to create environments and families and opportunities and friendships and relationships where mistakes are not your final destination. Mistakes teach you so much. Mistakes tell you what not to do or what to do or who to mess with, who not to mess with, what you can do to adjust. Mistakes are not always bad, and it's definitely not your final destination. That's our affirmation this month. Mistakes are not your final destination.
Oof. Mistakes are not your final destination. I think each and every one of you that are watching, that will watch this, that's watching live with us now, but will watch it after the fact, write that down. If you have a computer or your mirror in the morning, mistakes are not your final destination, because sometimes we'll make a mistake, then we'll beat ourselves up, we'll play it on a loop, and then we miss out on what the lesson was to get back on the horse and do it again, right? And we're human. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, right? And so, listen, give yourself some grace, give yourself some space, right? Because listen, when somebody makes a mistake with us, many of us will be like, it's okay, it's all good, and move over. But when we do it for ourselves, we don't give ourselves that same grace, right? And so, listen, you might get off the live stream with us right now and go make a mistake. There's 24 hours in a day. We're not going to get it right all the time, right? And some people will make us feel so small when we make a mistake. And again, mistakes are not your final destination. When somebody tries to make you feel small, tries to shrink you, calls you this, that, and the other, oh, I never do that. How could you do that? Recently I had made a series of mistakes on something, and the person's like, you're so smart, Minda. I just can't believe that you wouldn't be able to get this part. And for a minute, I internalized that. Yes, I am smart, but there are things that I don't know everything. Right? And we all have different experiences. And sometimes they're not mistakes. They're just how we were socialized. Right. So actually, it wasn't a mistake. It's just that we didn't view this thing the same, on how you go about getting it done. And so don't let people project how they view mistakes on you. You have the ability to change course. We do these affirmations every month, not because they're cute, but because we need to reaffirm ourselves. Mike, say it again for the people in the back.
Mistakes are not your final destination. And can I add one small thing, Minda? I think in relationships in particular, a lot of times we'll look back at old things or old friendships or old relationships, and we know some stuff wasn't our fault. We know we were in toxic situation. We know it didn't fit, it didn't work, and it wasn't our fault. And we will take the 2 or 3 mistakes we made and just, yep, it was because of me. I'm the one who did it. And if I did A, B, and C, I would have had a whole friend. I would have had a whole husband. I would have had a whole partner. And that doesn't be the case sometimes. That's not even, sometimes our memory is not correct from stuff that's happened, because stuff has happened 5, 6, 10 years ago, and sometimes our memory isn't correct, and we have to move on and get the healing and get the help, and not always look to try to blame ourselves for stuff. What is your quote? What's meant for you won't miss you, or something like that. You always say. Yeah, I think it's along that same vein. Like, if stuff was really meant to be, if people were really fighting for you, I don't think it would have went south like that. That's just my opinion.
Listen, go into this week. Your mistakes are not your final destination. Give yourself that grace, give yourself that space. And also, if you're the type of person that makes people feel small when they do make a mistake, then you got to sit with what we're saying too. It's not their final destination. Now, we're not telling you that if somebody commits adultery, somebody does these things, that it was a mistake, it's not their final. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about giving yourself. You make a mistake on the spreadsheet, right? You running late for work. The kids are throwing cereal on the floor. You know, you log it. You forget your login password to Zoom, and now the meeting's over. Like, you don't have to demonize yourself. Mistakes are not your final destination. You get back on it, you figure out you reset the password, and you get back on the next Zoom the next hour. Okay, you know, you made a mistake on the spreadsheet. You know what you need to do. You take that information. The next time you kill it. You know what I mean? And it's not who you are. So again, give yourself that grace, because we give it to so many people.
Yes, and she cheated 10 times. That's not a mistake. That's what Minda was talking about. That's not a mistake. You guys need some help. That's not a mistake.
Don't go saying, they said on Secure the Seat that it's not my final destination. No, that you need to be the final destination somewhere. Okay. So listen, we appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Tag somebody in the comments so that they can also make sure that they're showing up for them as well, because all of this is interconnected. It's not just about the seat. It's about our internal and how we show up, because that's how we enjoy the seat best. So we'll see you next Monday, and keep securing your seat.